Act 3, Scene 6, Forays the Palace. So this is a small scene, and what this scene establishes is that the Thanes, the Earls, nobody believes now that Macbeth is innocent or that he is a good king. And what this scene succeeds in doing is showing how a reign of terror has been established. People are afraid to say what they really feel. They're afraid that they're being spied upon. And at the beginning of this particular speech here, Lennox is very veiled in what he says. He's afraid to really speak truthfully to the Lord he's speaking with, in case the Lord is spying, because the reign of terror, quite similarly to, the Nazi regime, you never know who was listening, you never knew who was spying, because Macbeth has spies everywhere, which is the typical attribute of a tyrant. So Lennox, my former speeches have but hit your thoughts, which can interpret further. Only I say things have been strangely born. So, I've hinted at this before, but there's some strange goings on here in Scotland. The gracious Duncan was pitied of Macbeth, marry he was dead. And the right valiant Banquo woke too late, who, you may say if it pleased you, Fleance killed. So Macbeth adored Duncan, and poor Banquo, he just walked too late and he was done away with by his son Fleance. So it's been put about by Macbeth's spies and his comrades that Fleance must have been the one who killed his father, in just the same way as Donalbain and Malcolm must have had a hand in killing their father. For Fleance fled. Men must not walk too late. Who cannot want the thought how monstrous it was for Malcolm and for Donalbain to kill their gracious father. Damned fact, how it did grieve Macbeth. So that's dripping in sarcasm there. Oh, how it grieved Macbeth when Donalbain and Malcolm killed their father. So obviously he's getting a bit more comfortable now in speaking to the Lord. He gets the sense that he's among friends. Did he not straight in pious rage the two delinquents tear, that were the slaves of drink and thralls of sleep? So he's saying there, in his pious rage, he killed those chamberlains, the two chamberlains who were murdered by Macbeth, who could refrain, who had a heart to love. So Lennox is sort of laughing in this sardonic way, didn't he kill them because he was so disgusted by what they had done? Was not that nobly done? Aye, and wisely too, for 'twould have angered any heart alive to hear the men deny it. So that I say, he has borne all things well. So again, with the sarcasm, he's saying, Macbeth is handling all of this very, very well. There have been a lot of murders, but he's a really great guy. And I do think that had he Duncan's sons under his key, as pleased heaven, he should not. They should find that 'twere a kill a father. So should Fleance, but peace. For from broad words and cause he failed, his presence at the tyrant's feast, I hear Macduff lives in disgrace. So now he's moving on now, and he's talking about how Macduff is living in disgrace. He failed the feast that he was invited to. He didn't attend the coronation, and apparently has been summoned to court since that and has not come. So Macduff is really standing out alone as a patriot here and saying, I don't believe a word of any of this, and I suspect heavily that Macbeth is the killer of our king, our gracious king, and those murders that have taken place since. Macduff lives in disgrace. Sir, can you tell me where he bestows himself? So where is Macduff at the moment? The Lord says, the son of Duncan, from whom his tyrant holds the due of birth, lives in the English court and is received of the most pious Edward. So Malcolm has gone to England, as we knew, but he's actually living in the court of the King of England. Now, the King of England is a most gracious man. He echoes Friar Lawrence from, let's say, from Romeo and Juliet. He is full of grace. He has a divine connection with nature. He's always working with plants and herbs, just like Friar Lawrence, and that's how he was able to make the vial for Juliet. And Edward is seen as a very, very, very good king, and he has now received Malcolm and given him a place of safety. and sanctuary. Of the most pious Edward, with such grace that the benevolence of fortune nothing takes from his high respect, thither Macduff is gone to pray the holy king upon his aid. So Macduff has gone to England to speak to the holy king. So we have there references to pious Edward and the holy king. Nice little quotations there, because if an essay was to come up on kingship, or you're doing an essay on kingship, you must discuss the 4 kingships that you will see. And this is an example of good and benign kingship, very similar to the good and benign kingship of Duncan. And of course, a really good contrast to the, the dictatorial kingship that they're experiencing at the moment. So the holy king upon his aid to wake Northumberland and warlike Seward. So Macduff has gone down to England, and he wants to get the help from the English king to get the Northumberland lords. Of course, they would be on the border with Scotland, to actually help to invade Scotland. And this is no joke, to ask an English king to invade Scotland. We all know that's not a joke, but in this moment they need a good, benign king to help extinguish the evil kingship that's kind of going on at the moment. To wake Northumberland and warlike Seward, that by the help of these, with him above, to ratify the work, we may again give to our tables meat, sleep to our nights, and free from our feasts and banquets bloody knives. So basically to restore order, that we could sleep again in our beds, free from terror and paranoia, that we could feed ourselves properly. So they are experiencing a reign of terror. Everybody's terrified, and they could go back to banqueting or whatever they do, right, and not have the fear of being murdered for opening their mouths. Do faithful homage and receive free honours, all which we pine for now. So these are the leaders of Scotland, the Thanes of Scotland, and they can't give homage to their king, which would have been their big tradition, because of course the king is not trustworthy and they are terrified of him, and they only pretend to support him. And this report hath so exasperate the king that he prepares for some attempt of war. So Macbeth has heard that Macduff is, an enemy of his, and he's preparing for war. Lennox says, sent he to Macduff? He did. And with an absolute sir, not I. The cloudy messenger turns me his back and hums as he would say, or should say, you'll rue the time that clogs me with this answer. So, as I said previously, Macbeth had called for Macduff to come to his court to appear to discuss, his general allegiance, etc. And Macduff refused to come to the court. Now, this may prove very foolhardy for Macduff, because he has a significant amount to lose, which we'll look at later. Lennox says, and that well may be. Advise him to a caution, the hold that distance his wisdom can provide. Some holy angel fly to the court of England and unfold his message ere he come, that a swift blessing may soon return to this our suffering country. Highlight that. The country is suffering, and we're going to be looking in the next couple of scenes. There's going to be a lot of personification of that suffering. Really, really vital quotes coming up. Under a hand accursed. So they are under dictatorship now. It's established, and among friends they can say it to each other, but they are very fearful of saying it outside that realm, because Macbeth has as we know very well, he has paid servants everywhere. He has spies everywhere. The Lord says, I'll send my prayers with him. So two important things in that scene. First of all, establishing now that Scotland has really been elevated to a full-blown dictatorship, and also that Macduff has really stood outside that and has really, worn his bravery on his sleeve, has run to England to get help from the court. And we've also established that Malcolm isn't just running for cover either. He's down there too, and he's been put up by the good king. And so there is hope for Scotland coming via England, but it'll be a long time coming.